When you're done at the end of the day, down there, same stuff. Unless I would just have to
Okay, great. Thanks.
This morning, was it on the side? Yeah. So I think anyone hasn't told the. I don't know what his is supposed to look like, so. I mean, we're starting like. I'm sure. Interrupt you? No, I can Because it's the first session and the second session. I'm still in the first session too. The second session is the I know it's the RMLA stuff. No, I just said I said sorry, did we change that? Yeah, we'll leave it on the stack so that I can load it out. I've got a hash over with the presentation on it. I have nothing to do with the presentations. So we are I'll get the presentation. Yeah, I'll literally have to just delete this whole presentation and reload it again from here. Yeah, and then I'll need a copy of the presentation. Yeah, okay. Well, this one was all fine except for that one slide, so can we just delete the slide out? Better I can just be like, no, do that if you're hungry. Joke! Actually, you know what, Control Z, undo. Grab those two slides. These two? Yeah. Keyboards. Yeah. And then cut those to Control X. Yeah. And then move them right to the down bottom of 9. I've got this great note now, but so what you do is you just do that. Yeah, look at that. So we still need a couple of I've nothing to do. Oh, it isn't here. That's fine. I do go right here. Yeah. So just drag that.
Yeah. It works like a keyboard, doesn't it? Yeah. There you go.
So it's recording, so you can go from streaming.
Okay, we're ready to go. Speaker, and this is working as well? And this one as well.
Response. We'll try. Awesome. Almost. We'll get. Excellent. That's good. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate your time coming along today. This is a really exciting day. We've got a number of different sessions. So this session is about Homestar itself, the background to that, which I will lead on. I'm Andrew Eagles from the New Zealand Green Building Council, and Better, Leanne, more intelligent, better looking, will lead on the detail of the changes to Homestar and Homestar version 4. Okay? We're then going to have a break, and after that we'll have a session on levers and incentives that councils can use to encourage better buildings and homes. Okay, so that's the session in which the chair of the Resource Management Lawyers Association comes along and talks about things councils can do to get more of this happening. And then we have a small break, and then the really important part where we get to launch and then have some drinks. Does that sound all right? Great. So that's the session we've got today. Very quickly, housekeeping. This is a non-smoking venue. If you wish to smoke, please do so outside the building. Men's and women's toilets are located on this level. Please ask staff to direct you, and they are waving at the back, or waving at the front, or waving outside. In the unlikely event we need to exit the building in an emergency, exit via the illuminated fire exit, congregate in the courtyard to your right or on St James's Street as directed by Becca staff. Very good. Okay, so I'm just going to make a start. We've got about 25 minutes, 20 minutes or so, and then we'd like to do a workshop with you, actually, get some of your thoughts and input. We can talk, but I often find some of the best stuff comes from people in the audience and networking and thoughts out there, and that's actually how, I think that's a really important reflection, is just that the NZGBC, the New Zealand Green Building Council, was created by all of you, actually. So the sector created us, and that they are the people who drive our tools. So if you hadn't worked it out, define is defining building, designing it, and then incentivising is the next bit. So thank you to Becca for hosting us. Becca have been involved in a lot of what we do, and we really appreciate them providing a venue today. So health and safety I'll talk through. And Amy or anybody, if you wanted to give Sienna control, do help me out with that. There's a little bubble up the top. Asking if Sienna would like to be involved. So I'm Andrew Eagles from the New Zealand Green Building Council, and we'll also be hearing from Leanne Durbin, Development Manager at the New Zealand Green Building Council. Okay, so we were set up by the construction and property sector to help verify the quality of homes and buildings. And our vision is New Zealanders in more productive and healthier buildings and homes. Sorry, Andrew. That's all right. And just to say thank you, we've had a number of organisations get in touch with us about wanting more involvement and exposure and aligning what they're doing with us. And so we'd like to thank Bailey's and Rosine for their support over the year in helping to drive change. So I just wanted to give a little bit of background as to where all this is coming from and why we're seeing a dramatic rise in green certified buildings in New Zealand and around the world. So we're part of the World Green Building Council, and that's facilitating transformational change throughout the world. It's a not-for-profit in the built environment, and as a result of 80 or so countries around the world being members, they've certified an area 10 times the size of Paris, and that's set to double again in the next 3 years and double again in about a year after that. So why is it important to build quality buildings? Well, I think probably you all know this, but we'll just touch on it. The best thing about green buildings is that we work better in them, right? So the Green Building Council started out with tools for buildings, and we've got quite a strong uptake from commercial buildings. And why is that? Well, people value it because our brains work better when we've got better daylight, better air quality, better flow, all those sorts of elements. So our mental function is better. In addition, we can process things a lot faster. I've said this before, but it's really helpful for me because we have bright people at the NZGBC, Leanne and PhDs and other really sharp people. So to keep up, I need a Green Star certified building, which is why we're in one. We know that people get better quicker when they're in Green Star certified buildings, and students have better achievement in Green Star certified homes, schools. So that's all really positive. We've also seen significant interest as a result of this Have people seen this before? Some people? Yeah. Here is New Zealand's projected greenhouse gas emissions, and here is where we need to get to according to our Paris climate change agreements, which we've signed up to. So we've got a bit of a way to go, and buildings and homes can contribute significantly towards that. Just a bit of context, it's something I'm sure you'll all recognise. In New Zealand, there's a particular reason for more interest. We have around 1.6 million homes, and we have a very poor quality housing stock. So just to pick out one figure, we have 700,000 with no or little wall insulation, and this is impacting significantly on many people in our population. So we have 40% of our homes are damp or mouldy, and that's leading to one of the highest cases of respiratory disease in the Western world. And it's costing us $6 billion a year and impacting 700,000 people. And 1 in 4 children in New Zealand will have some sort of respiratory issue. So I think that's something that we are not proud of, and part of our movement is to transform that. So we want to move from homes like this to light and airy and better quality homes, as you know. And that is actually a home of one of my colleagues, and she's been struggling to get rid of that damp issue for some months with her landlord. We know that the building code isn't working. I've been away for 15 years. I've come back to New Zealand and I toured the country. Every single week, somebody tells me how embarrassed they are about the New Zealand building code. Every single week. Sometimes it's 10 times a week. People say they're just embarrassed by it. And why is that? Well, it's because it doesn't incentivise orientation, doesn't actually require mechanical ventilation in the bathrooms or with range hoods. Insulation required is significantly below what many people would suggest. The R values are 2 to 3 times worse than we see in Australia, the UK and Ireland, to give an example. The windows are not always of decent quality, and all of this leads to significantly higher costs for people. So we developed a rating tool. The building community and our board and our members said, let's start developing something to drive change. So Homestar was created about 5 years ago to focus on reducing operational costs, a better quality home. And it provides an assessment of apartments, but also homes, so a range of home types. And interestingly, we've in the last 2 years seen a tenfold increase in uptake of Homestar. Really, really exciting, I think, to see that uptake. So we've gone from 650 registrations in quarter 2 2015 up to over Danny here, 6,700 and anyway, he might have just popped out, but over 6,700 homes now being registered. So is that good? It's good, right? Bring it on. So we're really excited about that, and as part of me coming on board, I looked at this and I thought, well, that's tremendous. Let's get a sense check of whether it's right for the market. So that led to a discussion with the industry, and Leanne will talk a little bit more about that, but that led to the version 4 changes that the team took forward. Just to focus on some other measures briefly, because part of the day is also about buildings. We are seeing councils incentivise Green Star buildings as well. So we have 133 buildings that have been certified, and another about 38 or so who are going through registration at the moment. And actually I was with a very senior person from Becca the other day, and he said, Andrew, the Green Building Council has been successful in transforming office buildings in the CBD. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, look, you go downtown now and you can't really point to buildings that are being built that aren't being Green Star certified, notable buildings. So I think that, there's lots to do in terms of transforming things, but one thing we can say is that we have effective change, and it's possible to really move a market. So we know that now Green Star certification for buildings is just, so Manson Brothers, every single time they build, Green Star certification. Precinct Properties, every single time they build, they're building to 5-star Green Star. It's $1 billion worth of development. Good? So, yeah. And what has that meant in real terms? It's meant millions of tonnes of less construction waste into landfill. It's meant the changing of lighting specifications. It's meant the changing of carpet. It's meant the consideration of daylight, those sorts of things. So anyway, I came on board in October and I wanted to know, well, is there interest in this agenda in New Zealand? Is it possible to transform things further? And what's the quickest way to mainstream? And I was interested in those issues. Well, New Zealanders, what do they think? Well, we did some research in 2014 and we found that 70% of respondents said that energy efficiency was important to them. The Colmark Runton research, the biggest research of consumers in New Zealand, long-term running research, it showed that people are increasingly looking at sustainability as having an impact on what they buy, and that Kiwis are interested in this agenda. Then I wanted to know, well, is it possible? Can we actually do this? Can we change a market? Well, we know that costs are dropping. Now, I just use this example because it shows a dramatic cost reduction you can get when you do things at scale. So what you can see on the screen is the Swanson effect, which is the rule that for every doubling of uptake of PV worldwide, there's a 13% drop in the price of solar PV internationally. So the price dropped 97% to 2013 levels internationally. Now I know it's a bit fiddly here to do solar PV, but it's just to illustrate that scale can bring change. I'm not particularly advocating for solar PV, although I think it is rather interesting that in the UK they got this dramatic uptake and a 10-fold uptake in solar PV, and I think they have rather less sunshine than we might have, but that's a discussion for another day. So what else is happening? Well, we know that green buildings deliver better financially. That's a good message, right? So the Property Council of Australia Green Property Index showed that up to the financial year June 2016, green buildings relative to non-green buildings had a 6% better capex rate, a 13% better total return, and a 6% lower vacancy rate. So in very real terms, why did they do this? So I've talked to these guys and they said they did it to attract more tenants, more international capital, and to make more money. So the guys I know doing this in Australia aren't wearing sandals. They're about making a lot of money. That's why they're interested. Two other indices, they showed a lower operating costs and 20% increase in value. The IDP index and the API PFI index showed an increase in asset value and rental value. So here's some illustrations. Australia's largest owner of offices commits to zero emissions by 2040. AMP Capital, carbon neutral by 2030, that's across their new build and their existing stock. And they're using Neighbours and Green Star, two of the tools we use to bring about that change. Why? Investors are increasingly looking for green assets which deliver investment returns and minimise risk. And why is that? Well, because the money is flowing into this stuff, right? China's bonds, they were 6 trillion. They evaluated how they could get to their climate change targets. They knew they needed trillions and trillions. They looked at their green bonds and they're requiring 20% of their green bonds to be allocated to things that are green certified. Here's the rise of green bonds in Australia. 2013, $10 million. 2015, $42 billion. Now you say, okay, well green bonds aren't hitting here yet, but I'll tell you what, investors are talking about this, right? We've had large commercial companies come to us increasingly wanting to join up and to drive this change. Another illustration, if you're a director in Australia, you are now, they're signalling that climate change risk and reducing climate change impacts is part of your obligation, legally, right? So it's getting pretty serious. That's if you're a director, not just of buildings, but of anything. That was passed about the end of 2016. Across the world, better buildings are being mandated. So throughout the EU, 2021 is near zero energy buildings and near zero energy homes for new homes and new buildings. Singapore are going even faster. California are the same, net zero energy homes by 2021. So you can kind of see the direction of travel. So as I said, we went out and listened to the sector. We did quite a bit of listening in lots of different ways. We held a survey, we did a scoping paper. The team at NZGBC, I just can't take my hat off enough to them. It's really special what they've achieved. So Sam Archer, Leanne, and Danny, a huge thanks to you. And the way you've been really upfront about getting feedback and taking that forward. So we met quite a few people, we got survey responses, and we even said, come and tell us anything. You can throw things at us, bring it on. Nobody threw anything, luckily. What we got was a sense that people want to use the tool more, they just found it a little bit administratively arduous. We had aligned with Passive House, and in our Green Star methodology, we're accrediting points that people might gain through the well rating system. So the other thing that's been happening is more and more councils have been in touch to say, Andrew and the team, how can we make this happen? We want to see more of this. Why do we want to see more of this? Well, they quite like less surface water runoff. They quite like to be providing less water. They quite like a lower drain on the grid. So here are some of the things they are doing. So Wellington is halving the development contributions for Green Star buildings in Wellington. Hamilton is providing additional floor space if you build to Green Star in downtown Hamilton. Other councils have asked us, and we're talking to them about fast, it should actually read faster build consent. And Queenstown looked at higher density for Homestar. They got knocked back on that in the end, but they did try. And so as a result of this, what we realised is there's real interest, and councils are doing different things. So we're now on a national tour with the Resource Management Lawyers Association, helping councils to think about how they can achieve this. And these are quite real. So I was speaking to a quite significant developer in Wellington the other day, and he said, I don't believe in all this green shit. What are you on about? And I said, okay, that's fine, I get it. You don't want to certify, you don't want to reduce your operating expenditure. Just as an aside, as I went to leave, he said, oh, we're building something soon. It's really interesting. How big is it? And he told me, and I said, oh, so just as an aside, you'll probably save about $150,000 if you do it to Green Star. And he said, Andrew, I'd quite like to talk to you about Green Star. Could you provide some more information? I've had 3 emails lately in the last about 2 weeks about all of that. So some of this is quite real and of real interest. We are getting denser as a nation, and by that I mean in terms of building closer to each other. As we do that, quality is going to be important, isn't it? Right? So Kiwis aren't always used to having someone so close in their proximity. So if we can build more sound insulation, more daylight, more warmth, people will be happier in those situations. This is a pretty major issue, I think. How can we deliver improved quality? Well, there is an independent verification system for that. We're increasing our reach to get more buy-in, so I think this is important to note. We have 30,000 people receiving our different e-bulletins each month, 10,000 people on social media connecting those, and we are getting asked about once a week for media commentary in the press, and having some good discussions with ministers and officials. I'll skip over this, but we're bringing out a new tool for the performance, the operational costs of buildings. Just to note that it will cover health, education, industrial buildings, and even petrol stations. Right, so I've almost finished. I just wanted to touch on something which I think is interesting, because, in a way, what we do, it's a bit geeky, isn't it? Rating tools. What are rating tools, man? People say, what about this great new piece of kit or a sexy thing that we do? We've got a better insulation method or better solar panels. And that is exciting. what we're trying to do is fundamentally change the system, right? Not just the occasional building, we're changing how we talk about things. And I just want to illustrate to you the power of that and what that can do to a marketplace. So, in Australia, they have a scheme. Does anyone know Neighbours? Yep, so a few people. So they had Neighbours in Australia, and they brought it in 2007. And at that point, 8% of buildings were 4.5 to 6 star, which is a better rating. And in 2010, that had moved to 19%. And an interesting thing happened in 2010. Tony Abbott came in, right? And was he a supporter of climate change, reducing carbon emissions? No, not really. So he says specifically, what is this Neighbours crap? I want to get rid of it. And he commissioned a report, 130 pages, spent quite a lot of money, and he was asking for them to get rid of Neighbours. The report comes back. It finds that the benefits of an energy labelling system for commercial buildings was over $40 million to the commercial building sector of Australia. The productivity and health gains to those people in those buildings was over $140 million, which he excluded from the core analysis. And he presented that, and he also said, oh, just by the way, Prime Minister, the property sector and the property council would like to keep Neighbours because they see it as so valuable for what they're doing. And further, they want to triple the impact. So they want to go from buildings that are 2,000 square metres or above down to 1,000 square metres and above, and it cover 3 times the number of buildings. So despite him being redneck and being anti this agenda, it got through the support of the industry because it was delivering value, and that's what we can achieve. So what happened then? 2015, 2016. I really like this for 2 reasons. It shows the power of change and rating tools. And it also, because I'm a real geek and an economist, it reverts to the bell curve. I don't know if anyone's an economist, but that's quite a geeky joke. So it moves to the bell. That was year 2 of economics. So what you can see is that is, in real tangible terms, tens of thousands of buildings improving their air quality, improving their insulation, getting better HVAC systems. And that's what we're about. We're at 10,000 homes in Homestar, registered or confirmed, and we're going to transform the market. Here's the energy efficiency and the carbon reductions over time through re-ratings of those office buildings. Oh, we've got some other new tools, so communities, and we've changed Homestar a number of ways. I'm going to let Leanne talk about that in a bit more detail. We are launching around the country with this. We've had interest throughout the country and also doing some webinars. It's just quickly to note that, just quietly, we're bringing out a new tool for existing homes. So in Homestar, we've separated existing homes from the tool. And in the first quarter of 2018, there'll be a new, simple, easy-to-use tool for existing homes which focuses on insulation, ventilation, and efficient heating systems to deal with this issue. It's called HomeFit. We've got quite a bit of interest in that. Yeah, so we've created a new tool. We're getting buy-in from government, and we're going around generating uptake and aligning that with the processes you need for an effective rating tool. And I just thought I'd finish with a little story. So here's you probably know this, some of you, a house that was pretty cold and damp, and Zane's children were getting sick quite often. They retrofitted that to Homestar, and he could say that his kids were getting sick far less often. So I thought that was quite powerful to finish with a human story. Okay, so I hope that was useful. Now you guys have to do some work. I'd be really interested in your thoughts on all of that, and if you think we're going in the right direction, or your thoughts, also projects you might be working on and how that feeds in. So I have a bit of this time, and it's also an opportunity for you to ask some questions before we get into the detail of Homestar particularly. So if you have questions or thoughts on any of that or disagreement, I really welcome them. You can have a bit of time to allow for that. It says waiting for hands to go up. Well, if not, no. Okay, well, here's a question. Are we on the right track? Does that seem like a good way forward? Okay, so put your hands up if you think we're going in the right direction. We'll do it that way. Okay. Now don't feel bad. Put your hand up if you think we're in the wrong direction. Okay, well that's useful, and it's all right, feedback's good. Okay, is there anything else we could be doing just on homes additionally that would help? Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Andrew, how far are we aligned with the passive house in terms of criteria?
Yeah, so we'll go into that in some detail during the presentation, but I mean, what I can say is, so with the direction of Homestar is in line with a focus on better insulation, better ventilation, and those elements that are similar to passive house, right? Where people achieve passive house, they gain 15 out of 15 for the energy, health, and comfort area. Oh, 20 out of 20. So change the methodology. 20 out of 20. So if you're doing passive house and you want to also be accredited through Homestar, that methodology scores exceptionally well within Homestar. So that's what I mean by aligning. What we're getting is people saying, well, we've done passive house, but also we're quite interested in materials and water efficiency. And so they want to accredit for that as well. So we work quite hard at that. And as you go up from 6 to 10 star, you are increasingly being driven to, so considering thermal bridging, considering better ventilation technologies, those sorts of things. So, which is in line with passive house. So it incentivizes and our system aligns. Our point is just that to move the market, you need to provide a step for everyone to just do a little bit better, and we don't think the market is ready for everyone to achieve passive house, right? So if we get 20, 30,000 homes doing Homestar, then we start to say, hey, why don't we just audit this? Because it's possible. Whereas you look at passive house, great, we believe in it, we support it, it's the right direction of travel. There's maybe less than 30 passive house buildings certified, at the moment in New Zealand. So we're about market transformation, not about the excellent little nth degree green project. Although we do have 3 certified 10-star to design standard homes. So if you're super green and you want to do that, then you can also do that through Homestar. A lot of what we'll talk about today is 6-star Homestar, 20 or 30% better and warmer than building code. Yes, could you just say who you are?
I'm Andrew from NZGBC.
Hi, Andy.
Obviously, there's an affordable homeless issue in New Zealand, most Western economies.
Yep.
How does all of this help capital costs go down?
Oh, very good. How's it not carried? I've noticed you finished with that. Well, I guess it starts with a few things first. It starts with making people, and I'm going to say this, right, healthier and reduce running costs. So we would expect people to save, on average, throughout New Zealand, just under $1,000 per year in operating costs, right? So we think that's something that's really exciting. 6 Homestar aligns with the standards you would expect if you were building a home in Ireland or the UK or Australia. So we're actually getting up to the EU values and windows that actually work and aren't weeping in the morning, that sort of thing. So it's positive. Less likely to develop mould, so less maintenance costs. In the UK, I was there, they were spending, I was working with housing associations, right? They were having to employ people full-time people to go around and get rid of mould and maintenance costs that came out of that. Your question is actual capital costs. I mean, so the work we've done dramatically reduces the time and the cost involved in getting Homestar. We would expect most people to reduce their certification costs between 20 and 50%. I mean, fundamentally, this doesn't reduce the capital cost of building a home, but it does verify that the home performs, right? So it's not a major cost. Well, let's think about it. Is it a major cost to put slightly deeper insulation in? You tell me. No, it's not a major cost. So is it a major cost to put fans in that work and that type of thing?
It's all relative.
It's all relative, yeah. So I think what we're just talking about at 6 Homestar is actually a decent home that we can be proud of as New Zealanders, and verifying that, right? Anyway, any other thoughts or questions? Because the next part is you guys doing some work and feeding back. Yes?
Is the new Homestar tool, is it easy to use on multi-story buildings? Like with the mixed-use urban zone, I don't know, 16 metres, we're doing a lot of schemes for private landowners that are looking at 4 or 5 story apartment buildings, not terrace houses, apartment buildings.
Yeah.
And they're really scared of the costs.
Yeah.
Is the tool easily?
So how many homes or apartments would be delivered in total?
Oh, anywhere between 1 per floor to 4 per floor, so anywhere between 5 and 20.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the problem, the reason that New Zealanders generally get fearful of that is because it kicks over into having a body corporate structure. And the body corporate's got to manage the ecosystems in particularly, and so my question is, does Green Star program help us with that?
Yeah. So
Assure the building owners that it's going to be easier to manage the body corporate, I suppose.
yeah. So in answer to that last point about easy to manage, so Homestar will reduce running costs and reduce maintenance, which will make it easier for that body corporate. And the other thing to note, and we're going to come on to it in more detail, and I'll talk to it tonight, and you'll get an infographic, which is coming, Fritfa here. Yeah, Fritfa's got it, which points to the changes we've made to Homestar, which means that if you're delivering more than 3 homes in a scheme, which you are, then it's significantly quicker and simpler to get verification. So really, in particular, specifically, so if you are, when you're building these, if you have the same heating system that you're using on the 5 apartments, or if you have the same insulation that you're using in the same depth, then what we can do is pre-certify that. And you might even be using the same depth and the same R values across multiple schemes. You come to us and you say, can you please pre-certify this on the schemes I'm delivering or on this particular scheme? And we can. So let's say you're using the same heat pump or the same ventilation system. We can sign that off across all of the schemes that you're doing. So what that means is the assessor doesn't need to assess that on every single home anymore. So you can see that there's a multi-fold benefit to that of significantly less assessment.
The tool is easy to use for apartment work.
Yes, yeah. So I mean, that took far too long for me to answer, but the simple fact is that all this work we've done, which Leanne is going to talk through in a bit more detail, is to better allow people building at volume, so volume home builders and people building apartments to get this done easily. So Sam, every second day, would be saying, come on guys, I need this to be easier, let's go. And the changes we were making were to make it simpler to process. Just as robust in terms of delivering warmth, but simpler to get through the process. Right? And we'll go through that in some detail. Volume certification, evidence is less detailed that is needed, it's more practical. No slab insulation needed on Auckland, Coromandel or Northland, and elements like that. I'm just going to stop now and allow you guys some time to talk amongst yourselves. What I'd like you to do is meet somebody you don't know, okay, and I'm going to test you on that, and talk to them about what is important in a rating system, right? Right, so what should we be including in homes when we rate them? If you're sitting next to somebody, 2 or 3 or 4 people that we know, then you're even allowed to stand up and move around. That is allowed. Okay? So part of the advantage of these events is that you meet other people. Okay, you've got 8.5 minutes.
35 minutes, so we've got another. That's good. Well, I'll let them talk for a little bit. I'm not too stressed. I'll let them talk for a little bit.
I'm just going to check. Okay. So, Sam at the back. Dennis, okay. So what have you guys decided need to be in a rating system for homes?
I still think more transparency for everyone in the market.
Yep.
So ultimately, I believe that if
And Denise believes, presumably.
that if someone, you take your barbecue, if you go to a barbecue and you see someone's got a racing next door, you go, what's that? Can I? So I want a 6-star rating.
Yeah, okay. I see. So you want that you want it to get such good uptake that people are talking about it at barbecues. Yeah. I'm in support. Okay. Any other thoughts about what should be included in what is rated? Because this is really important, because people come to us and they say, oh, what about this and what about that element? And it's quite, as you can imagine, it's quite a big project to manage some of these, and we really want to talk about some of that and get people's input so we can show consideration of that. I'll take Andrew. Yeah.
Just one thing we talk about affordability.
Yes. Okay. Really good. Well, that's interesting, because with some affordable housing providers, we're looking at providing a potential benefit for them when they're providing social housing, for instance, or affordable housing. So it may be something that we can reflect. Would that be? Do you think that would be worthwhile? Is that something if that's good for the community? Have housing? Yeah. Okay. So put your hand up if you support that idea. The thing I just stated, because it's okay. Great. Vernie, who did you meet?
Mike from the council.
Great.
We didn't get onto your topic.
What did you talk? British North Lines.
About neighbours and the fact that was being very useful, and that neighbours air and neighbours water would be a welcome addition to the neighbours suite in New Zealand.
Awesome.
The thing we liked about neighbours was that it does basically measure in-use performance.
Yep.
Something that maybe even from the home might potentially provide that.
Okay. So you didn't talk about subject matter, but there was a link. It's always going to be useful from Vernie. Okay. Well, I'll hand over. Would you like to use the walking mic or the?
I'll use this.
Okay. Thanks. Over to Leah.
Thanks, Andrew. Hi everyone, I'm Leanne. I have a pretty loud voice, so can everyone hear me? Yep, in the back, hands up? Okay, excellent. So hopefully you can hear me. If you can at any point, just start, doing this. As I said, I'm Leanne. I am the development manager at NZGBC. I was formerly the education and training manager. I have a background as a teacher. I am not an engineer. I just pretend to be one occasionally. So my job has largely been, with regards to Homestar, translating all of the engineering stuff and all of the input that we've had from the building industry and all of the input that we've had from Homestar assessors, and trying to make this into something that pleases everyone. So at the end of my presentation, you can let me know if I have done a good job at pleasing everyone. Because we all know that that's really easy to do, right? I would just want to say now a big thank you to the Warren Trust. They were really generous in helping to support my talk here today to you about how we can look at improving the quality of homes in New Zealand. I'm going to be talking about some basic concepts and then talking about how Homestar addresses some of those issues. I'm not going to talk a lot about how we used to do things with Homestar, because then that's kind of confusing. Rather, I'm going to talk to you today about what we are doing from now on with Homestar. So a lot of you have talked to someone nearby or maybe met someone new, and some of you, Bernie excluded, talked about the topic of what should we include in a rating tool. And so some of you may have had ideas about, hey, I think we should have more transparency, or you know what, I think that they charge way too much to certify these buildings. Whatever it might have been, you might have had some ideas like that. Some of you, though, might have said things like, we need more to look at having more insulation. We need to include green roofs. What about neighborhood amenities? And so forth. So you may see some of the things that you talked about coming up on the screen now. Things like water quality or self-sufficiency, energy demand, or connecting our neighborhoods. What about car dependency, gentrification, mold, stormwater, dampness, affordability, climate change, adaptation, infrastructure, quality of workmanship, and so on. And my point is, this is a lot of stuff, isn't it? We have a mountain here of ideas and things that seem important. Now, how many of you see a word up here that came up with what you're talking about, or a concept? No, or do you just not have arms? Yes? That's too interactive, sorry. Yeah, so a lot of you will see, hopefully, see an idea or a word up here. And this is part of the challenge of how we actually deal with and provide a sustainable home in New Zealand or around the world. There's a whole lot of stuff that can be considered, right? And everyone has a different perspective. Now, this is a really commonly used sort of perspective cartoon. And I don't know how well you can see, but obviously, you know, someone's very excited to see a boat, and the other person's very excited to see land. Each of them have a different perspective. I think we could probably all agree that they are both in trouble. And ultimately, probably they're going to end up in the same boat. I'm also going to use this example. How many of you have seen this? Very few. How many of you read this article? Is anyone in the room? Do you guys not have arms again, or not many people? Did anyone read this article? Yeah? Okay. So, if you read the article, this, for those of you who didn't, is a piece that was constructed very recently, just down the line a little bit in Tauranga. It's in a new development. One side believes that this is a really great idea. Okay? So the planners that were involved in this think this was a really cool idea. They went over and I think they were. Can you still hear me or not? Yeah? Not really? We might wait a minute. Yeah. I'm not sure. Oh wait, hold on, volume. I'm not sure my button pushing is doing anything. Oh wait, it is, hold on. I might be achieving something here. The mute button was not responding to me, so. I think we're back. Okay, so anyway, I don't want to go into much about this, but the planners thought this was cool. They went around the trees, and there was something about accessing the services that were underground. It was a more efficient way of doing it, etc., etc. The council person who was interviewed for this thought it was really stupid. And they pointed out, what about pushchairs? What about people in wheelchairs? And actually, if you'd gone straight, you'd have just as much impingement as you have here. If you'd just gone straight. Right? So everyone had a different perspective on this. When we talk about sustainable homes, it's very much the same thing. Everyone's kind of different, got a different perspective as to what's important to them. And so this is not necessarily representative of everyone, but these are some ideas of what the different groups may feel. So for a homeowner or a home buyer, they may be more attracted to things like the health and comfort, the neighborhood, running costs, amenities. Okay? Government or civil society has potentially more of an interest in reducing carbon emissions, improving ecology, and having a reduction in the health burden or social burden from unhealthy homes. A developer, for example, may be looking for return on investment, a CSR, PR benefit, having a marketing point of difference from their competitors, or having an improved or better consenting process as a result of their decision to do this. So everyone all of our different stakeholders have kind of a different perspective on what they would like to see. Those words that we saw before, I kind of pulled them together, and this is the sort of thing that we generally look at with sustainability. This pulls some of them in. Now, it doesn't address all of them. And I'll be upfront and say that Homestar doesn't necessarily address your thing or your thing or your thing. But we do try to, it is a holistic rating tool, and it does try to encapsulate a very broad spectrum of different parts of sustainability. Now, how do we, if this is what a sustainable house should be doing, how do we achieve this? How do we verify that we're achieving it? Well, let's look at what we have now. We have the building code. And Andrew talked about this, and he said that he's hearing, people talking about it, and I think a lot of you who are sitting in the room are probably thinking, yes, our building code isn't really adequate. And it doesn't address a lot of those issues that I put up there. It requires low levels of insulation. It doesn't really look at thermal bridging. There's little provision for good ventilation. There's no requirement for efficient heating. There's no control of overheating. There's nothing in water efficiency or lighting efficiency. Doom, gloom, right? So Homestar attempts to address a lot of these issues and provides a method for verifying that we are achieving in those areas. What's popped up around the outside here are the different categories within Homestar, and you'll see that those concepts kind of fit into those categories. The concepts themselves within the Homestar rating tool are the credits. So those are the ways that we go about achieving and addressing in each of these areas. So today I'm going to talk to you, I wish I had a lot of time and I could talk to you through the whole thing and give you a whole, this is all of the bits of Homestar. But I think A, you would probably be a bit bored after a while, and B, we really don't have enough time for that. So I'm just going to talk about a few of the important bits today. But if you want to talk to me about something that you think is really important or you're really interested to know about that I didn't talk about, come and find me and I will be happy to talk your ear off about it. So I'm going to start with thermal envelope performance, which really means that we want our home to be doing a good job around the outside of the walls and floors and ceilings and keeping the heat inside the house and not letting it escape outside. Unfortunately, this is where I get to do my doom, gloom again. We have some serious issues in New Zealand with the performance of our homes at the moment. Homes in New Zealand are cold. They're actually really cold. So, newsflash for those of you that didn't pick up, I'm not from here. I'm also not from somewhere very tropical. I'm from somewhere very, very cold. I come from the northeastern part of the US, where I regularly had to walk to school in snowdrifts. And it's cold a good 7-8 months out of the year. We basically live for the 4 months of summer. I then went to school in the balmy tropical climate of Michigan. Those of you who know your US geography know that I basically went from cold to cold. So I came here and I have never been so cold inside a home than I was when I moved here, and that was a long time ago. It was 14 years ago. And I continued being cold for a very long time until I think my husband got really sick of me complaining about being cold all the time, and we built a passive house. I'm not cold anymore, and it's fabulous. But the point is that we actually have really cold homes. And you meet a lot of people from overseas who come from cold climates, and they complain about the cold here as well. Am I preaching to the choir? Preach to the choir? Yes, okay. So, aside from those challenges, the house condition survey showed us in 2015 that we have a legacy of poorly insulated damp housing with inadequate heating. The International Energy Agency just did a review and said the building code is below the standards required in many other countries, and it's absurd that we're going to have to retrofit the housing that we're building now. Now you say, what about new homes though? Surely not our new homes. Well, this study was done on homes that were constructed post-2000, a range of typologies across New Zealand, and what you're looking at here is the percentage of time they were monitored in 2 weeks over winter. This is the percentage of time that they had air temperatures less than 19 degrees Celsius. The yellow is the bedroom, and the grey is the living rooms. Didn't do very well. So even new homes are still not doing well. Not all new homes, but a lot of them aren't. And we also, as I mentioned before, thermal bridges and air tightness, which are considered in other countries. The UK, for example, has standard air tightness testing now. They are considering these things. So now that I've totally brought the tone down here, what are some solutions? Well, hey, we can increase the insulation of our building envelope. So that's not just our walls. That's also our ceilings. That's also our floors. That's looking at our windows as well. We can think about good orientation, potentially sensible size of our glazing, and this orientation of that glazing, and having an energy-efficient fixed heating source. Now, I did show you the Brand's house condition survey. I'm going to also quote another very reputable research source, Stuff. But I pulled this because I think it's interesting. There were 3,000 votes on this, and what really actually, I was talking to a colleague, and I was saying, look at this, like, 59% of people would put central heating in their homes. And he pointed out to me that actually, look at how many people feel like their existing heating plan is working for them. 8%. So 92% of the people who clicked on this Stuff survey didn't think that their heating was serving them well. The questions are a bit You can nitpick at what you want, but the point is that we aren't necessarily heating our homes very well either. So some other things we can do, we can consider thermal bridges. Now, I will point out now that I'm going to talk about some sort of commonly accepted or very small steps, and I'm also going to talk about some more aspirational things as well. So there will be some controversial things that I say during this that you don't necessarily agree with, but I'm going to mention them because they are practiced. Most of them will have some sort of industry based practice internationally and so on, and I do want to touch on them. So there's other things we can do. We could reduce timber coverage. That would mean reducing the amount of logs that we use, reducing our amount of quarter bracing that's put in. If you don't want to do that, considering alternative construction systems that reduce your thermal bridging, things like SIPs or CLT panels or whatever it might be. Making sure that if you've got concrete or steel lintels penetrating through your thermal envelope, that they're insulated from the outside. We can change our window placement so that it's in line with the thermal boundary of the house rather than sitting outside of it. Air tightness helps to decrease the amount of heat that's lost from the home. And with that, heat recovery helps us to trap that warm air and to recycle it back through the house with fresh air that's being brought in. So all sorts of solutions. Now, what does Homestar look at? Well, Homestar tries to be, and we are, pretty accepting of a lot of different methodologies. And even if something isn't listed in the Homestar tool, we let you apply what is called a credit interpretation request. That means that, hey, I've done this really cool thing and it still meets what you've asked us to do, and we give you that pathway to try new things. So It's a little bit of a staged approach in the sense that we offer some suggestions for people who want a little bit of hand holding and guidance, and we also offer more open-ended approaches as well. So for the whole house thermal comfort credit, we have made some significant changes in here. Now, as I mentioned, I'm not going to talk about the way it was. I'm going to talk about the way it is. So this whole house thermal credit in Homestar is essentially looking at the thermal envelope. Now for 6 and 7 Homestar, and that's what we kind of consider our baseline standard, we have developed a schedule method. And this method, I'll show you in a couple of slides, is very much like the H1 schedule method in its approach. And in fact, any home that can use the schedule method for H1 can use this for can do the same for Homestar. So they have the same eligibility requirements. We also allow a calculation method. ALF is a tool that's commonly used for this, for homes that aren't able to use the schedule method for the 6 and 7 Homestar. Now, for all ratings, we allow thermal modeling. And in fact, this is what we expect for homes that are targeting an 8-star or higher. The reasoning behind this is we want to make sure that as people go up the star ratings, that they're undertaking a more sort of a deeper approach to the actual fabric of the building. What you can see here too is that there is, as Andrew mentioned, 20 points for this out of a total of 120 points in the tool. So this is the one that's worth the most amount of points because we know, and you should all know, this is really important. What we have done in response to this, so this is the energy modeling portion of it, if you were to undertake energy modeling. We have put in tighter energy benchmarks across the climate zones. What this means is that the climate in which you are building, you should be responsive to it and building to that climate. So a home in Wellington should operate at about the same costs and performance as a home in Christchurch or a home in Queenstown. Because we don't think it's terribly fair for people in Queenstown to have to pay 5 times as much to run their house as it is for someone in Wellington. Now, those numbers there may not mean a lot to some of you. Some of you it may mean something to you. For those of you that doesn't necessarily mean a lot to, I'll just give you a peek at our schedule method. Because this is really gives you kind of a very precise idea of what sort of the expectations are at a sort of 6 and 7 Homestar level. So you can see these are construction I values across the different parts of the house. So that's wood, wall, floor, windows, and glazing. Okay, now we have broken it into, you'll see, you're like, that is not what is in H1. We have broken the zone 3 climate zone into 2 bits. And that's because it gets really cold in Queenstown and Wanaka and Cromwell and Central Otago and the Western Waitaki and things. So we did ultimately split those 2 out because they actually need to build a lot more insulation in there to hit those targets. Now we also need to consider overheating. This is a real concern, particularly in the temperate climates of Auckland, but there's plenty of other regions in New Zealand that have a high number of days that are prone to overheating. And this is particularly an issue when we're putting a lot of glazing in our homes, which we're seeing more and more. People want that nice open plan. Unfortunately, sometimes they end up with an entire glazed wall on the western side and turn the
Grandma giving you some
into a bit of an oven out of sort of 3 or 4 months in the year. So we have developed a slightly what we call a simple method for sort of minimizing the risk for overheating at the 6 and 7 star level. When you undertake energy modeling, we're expecting that you will look at this as well, but at the 6 and 7 star level, we have a slightly simpler methodology. Just like how we're going on time. I have a tendency to blather on here, so here we go. So moving on from the thermal envelope and looking at how we're heating that space. So now we've got a nice thermal envelope, it's doing well, now we need to put some heat in it and trap that heat inside. So Homestar is now expecting that there should be a fixed and efficient heating source as a minimum in the living area. The benefits of whatever this heating source is, the way we kind of measure how beneficial it is and the points that are associated with it, has to do with the heating demand. So that's when you do your whole house thermal performance calculation. The efficiency of the space heater, so whether you have a wood burner or a pellet fire or a heat pump, and the percentage of the house that particular heater is heating. So I touched on thermal bridging, and this is where I start getting into the slightly more contentious topics. I am going to talk on it now. So this straddles the line between thermal performance and moisture. So we talk about this now with regards to thermal performance, and then we're going to jump right into moisture after that. So you'll see at the top that this is a moisture topic. So Homestar looks at thermal bridging with regards to having slab edge insulation. It's not required in all the climate zones, but you get points for doing it and more points for doing it well. We also award for insulating localized concrete and steel penetrations on the outside face, and putting in thermally broken window frames. You get even more points if your thermally broken window frames are brought in line with the layer of insulation. And so there's a little diagram here for those of you who are interested in that sort of detail. Now, we were hoping to come out with sort of a standard detail with that. We don't have anything available at the moment, but a lot of the window manufacturers are working on creating a standard detail for this window placement. And it's our hope, obviously, that as more and more people sort of start exploring this methodology, that it'll become more standard practice, and you'll see more and more sort of standard construction details coming out with this. So you can see here, there's a lot of words up here, and I'll just quickly translate it for you. But what this is looking at is we are looking for air and vapor control layers. This one at the top is just simply that the architect has looked at the drawings and said, you know what, the air and vapor control layers in the building, that I'm going to identify them, and that they are adequate for the climate and the internal loads. So this may not always mean putting in a proprietary product. It simply means that the architect is confident that this is a sufficient air and vapor control layer. In addition to that, we then go up in points based on having air leakage testing, so that's a blower door case. And this is a target at 3 air changes per hour, and this is under 1 air change per hour for this 2 points here. I will make a note for those of you who are thinking, oh, I hope she's done something about this, that we say that if you are achieving under 1 air change per hour, that you must install as a minimum a balancing mechanical ventilation system in order to address the issues that come with having very high levels of air tightness in your home. Which jumps us to the dry home portion. So I will point out, because I know I'm starting to wade into dangerous territory, and I'm probably about to jump really into it now, because there are a lot of people who have very strong opinions about how we should be ventilating our homes and what's necessary. So what I will say though is the Brands House Conditions report found visible mold in nearly 50% of the homes that it surveyed. Now, it should be no surprise to anyone. I know, actually, I should say, maybe it is a surprise given the glorious weather that we have been experiencing over the last few weeks and even the last few months. We have a pretty humid climate in New Zealand, and we have some serious issues with moisture in our homes. As I mentioned before, there's a building code requirement for mechanical kitchen and bathroom extract. The building code does require opening windows. However, in the Brands House Condition Survey and in subsequent recent reports that they are releasing, they're showing that opening windows is not necessarily adequate, and that occupants are not reliably opening their windows anymore and doing it properly. So what are some solutions? And like I said, I'm just going to wade right in now. So better ventilation is a really good solution, right? We can all agree about that. So intermittent localized extract is a good start. And this means that in our bathrooms and in our kitchens that we're making sure that we have a fan that is extracting moist air from those areas outside. Not to our attic, not to our soffites, outside, right? And not in like 30-meter runs through the neighbor's garden and then back out and then through the doghouse and then maybe outside, okay? Overseas evidence does indicate a preference for whole house ventilation. And this is where I'm just going to jump right in. Properly installed, properly commissioned, and properly maintained whole house balanced ventilation systems do provide assurance of good moisture management. And with that, they have the bonus of being able to have a heat recovery system put on them, which allows for better thermal performance. Now, I am not saying, some people may say, I'm not saying that this is necessary for all homes, but it is an important thing to consider as a benchmark for excellent achievement. So how does Homestar wade into this rather big debate area? Well, as a minimum requirement, require kitchen and bathroom extract and windows with a net openable area of 5%, of no less than 5% of the floor area. These need to have lockable stays on them, and this means that people are more likely to ventilate if they don't have security concerns about people coming in through the windows who shouldn't be coming through. And I say who shouldn't be coming through because my son regularly uses our window as a door. And also, the other option to that would have background. So looking at this, essentially what we're looking for is intermittent extract ventilation as the starting point, and then from there we build up continuous extract to balanced with heat recovery, and then there's a bonus point for the balanced ventilation systems that if they're properly commissioned, then you can have an additional point on there. Obviously, the better commissioned the system is, the better performance you're going to get out of it, and it's really important to do that with those balanced systems. Am I going on time? Right, so we've talked about the thermal performance of the house, we've talked about moisture management, and then the last thing I really want to touch on, which is water, and it's something else that we feel is really, really important when it comes to sustainability of a home. So the two things that I'm going to talk about are water conservation and management of our stormwater. So what are the challenges? We have infrastructure challenges, particularly with regards to stormwater runoff volumes. We have erosion and pollution of our waterways, and inefficient fittings and fixtures that result in a lot of water wastage. With rainwater harvesting, rainwater harvesting provides a solution, but there's also challenges that come with that with regards to this sort of intensification and density that we're seeing. So there could be site limitations and questions around efficiencies of rainwater harvesting when you're building intensely or at density. That looks pretty familiar. So we've been having a lot of these events recently, haven't we? We see photos a lot. And this is a result of, I don't know, climate change. It's a result of inadequate stormwater systems. It's a result of increased impermeable surfaces. There's a whole bunch of factors that go into it. How does Homestar look at this? Well, forgetting the flooding for the moment, with regards to our water wastage, we look at the water use of showers, lavatory equipment, so toilets, and kitchen and bathroom taps. And so what you'll see here is there's different points associated with the different water consumed in each of these areas. Now, this is a minimum requirement for a 6 Homestar home, that they are to achieve a maximum of 6 3-liter dual flush toilets and a maximum 9 liter per minute shower flow rate. Now, the shower flow rate is interesting because not only does it have a benefit with regards to water use, but it also has a own benefit of minimizing the amount of hot water that needs to be heated to provide to that shower, which can have a pretty significant effect on your hot water heating bills. With regards to stormwater, it's divided into 2 sections. One is the site stormwater, and the second is the roof stormwater. Now, for the site stormwater, we're looking at permeability thresholds or an ability to have a stormwater detention on site. There are extra points for retaining. I've just learned this, so I have to read this one, for retaining the first 10 millimeters of any storm event on site. Now, this is an interesting one, and I've been interested to learn about this because what we've learned is that the issue, the sort of most pressing issue with our stormwater actually isn't these 1 in 20, 1 in 50 storm events. It's just the normal everyday rain that we seem to be getting all the time at the moment. It's that ongoing daily rain, shall we call it? It feels like that at the moment, doesn't it? And so, because that's the issue, this is really trying to address that, rather than the 1 in 20, rather than the 1 in 50. And so that's been a pretty, that's been the big change that we've made to this portion of the tool at this point. The other side is the roof stormwater, and again, we're looking at the percentage of the roof stormwater runoff being managed on site. And so that might be a living roof, it might be a rain garden, or you might have stormwater detention tanks that are dealing with that. And again, there's those extra points for managing that first 10 millimeters. Great. So those are 3. I've touched on 3, and as you can see, there's a lot more in there. And there is a lot more in Homestar. Now, do you need to do it all? Who can answer that question? Do I have to do all of that? No. Yeah. As you move up the star bands, you're probably going to need to or want to do more to get those points. But as a baseline, you don't need to do it all. And in fact, you should be choosing what suits your site, what suits your dwelling, and what suits yourself or your clients, and making decisions from there. So some of the other areas are things like materials with eco-label certifications and or low VOCs, proximity to public transport, provision of amenities on site, construction waste minimization, minimizing or how you're managing your own internal waste in your site, whether you have sort of recycling bins, all sorts of other stuff that we look at, sound insulation, and so on and so forth. So, as I said, I'm not going to talk about all of those today. I think I've touched on the big sort of beefy ones for the moment. But I do actually want to, at this point, recognize some of the people who have really been leaders in Homestar up to this point. These are organizations or people who have been really driving change in this area, either through being very vocal about Homestar, or have been building a lot of homes in this area, or have been showing really good innovation with what they're doing. And so this includes people like Pinuku. And you'll see this is a artist rendering of the Wynyard Central development. The Building Excellence Group. New Zealand, the Super Home Movement, MetLife Care, and Taiki. This is an amazing representation of a really diverse group that are doing some really good things. And so what I want to ask you now, all of you sitting here who have had to sit through listening to me talk and wave my arms and be a bit silly, what can you do after sitting here and listening? What can you do? What are you going to do to contribute to this movement? We want to build better homes in New Zealand, and hopefully, through sitting through this, you have some ideas as far as what you can do to help accelerate this movement. Because we need all of you to join us in trying to help transform the entire market in New Zealand. So thank you. You now can ask me some questions, and then if you're really good, I'll let you go have some afternoon tea.
I think we should just start by thanking Leanne for her great presentation.
You are welcome to ask questions. I prefer you not throw things at me, but if you feel so inclined, just let me know so I can duck.
So we didn't cover everything in Homestar there. So obviously what's required at 6 Homestar is energy, water and decent ventilation, but there's lots of other areas. So if you had an area that wasn't covered off, that you find of interest, you know, ecology or these other things, then this is a chance to ask probably one of the most learned people on Homestar in the country those questions. Yeah, if you could just say who you are.
Carolyn, just as a general question, when is more detailed information on all of the criteria going to be available on the website?
Yep. So I will yell your question, so if anyone didn't hear. So the question was, when is more detailed information going to be available? Tomorrow.
At noon. It's going to be a late night.
I may not sleep, but at noon.
Yeah, so on the NZGBC website is a Homestar page, and that has now been refreshed, and the whole technical guide will be available tomorrow at noon.
So that will be available for download, and you can read all 180 pages in its glory.
Just on that note, there is a checklist, right? So in one page, 2 sides, will be a list of everything that you can check off on your home.
So I didn't have the time to cover everything because they told me I couldn't have the whole day or 2 days, unfortunately. I do teach Homestar courses, and it does take me 2 days to get through it all. So, but there are some things that we are doing, and one of those, it's a good point, is the checklist method that we've developed. And so this is a streamlined pathway for sort of, we're going to be developing over time more of them, but at the moment we have one for 6 Homestar rating. And it is a really much more streamlined approach. It doesn't require the use of calculators in most instances. So it's a very simplified method, but it is more prescriptive in the sense that we've basically given you a list of various things that you do need to do, and then kind of giving you a list of things to choose, 5 out of the 10 to do. But it's really good for developers who want to have a bit more certainty in the process, or want to be able to just hand a sheet of paper over to their designers and specifiers and say, give me something that meets those requirements, and doesn't want to have to sort of translate the whole manual. Things are going up now.
So just to touch on that, they're conservative, right? They're conservative. So, but if you want certainty and you don't want to go through the whole technical manual, you can use that checklist, 2 pages. You see everything required. But if you still want to do modelling, you can model to your heart's content. And if you want to standardise it to your, bespoke it out and do things that aren't on that checklist, then use the whole technical manual. Does that make sense? That makes sense to people? So it's a quicker process to go through, but if you want to bespoke, you can still do that. Yes, if you could just say who you are, Andrew.
Andrew from Green Homes. So how is it then certified and paid for?
Yep, so it's the same process as what you do for a normal Homestar project. The checklist is actually at the built stage. So the built stage is the required stage for Homestar. And it is very much based on a site verification. All of that information around like what documentation is required for the checklist will be in the checklist file itself. But it's mainly a site verification. Now, for those who are concerned at the design stage about whether or not they're sort of on the right track or meeting those requirements, we are doing a design review of the checklist, but a proper certification is not issued until the build rating. Does that answer your question at all?
Yeah, it does. It's a bit disappointing though, because the biggest cost or barrier that we talked about in the whole process was that third-party charging for doing so.
Right, so it should, I think what you are eliminating though is the need to have the quite a long consultation process, because as I said, it is absolutely laid out for you in very black and white terms what needs to be done in order to achieve a 6 Homestar. So as long as you follow that, it shouldn't require a large amount of sort of consultation and advice and transactions that way with your Homestar assessor. It should simply be a matter of them going on site, looking at what they can verify on site, and then checking off the rest that they need to. For example, you can't tell, let's say, what R values are in the ceiling, in the walls, for example, when you're doing a site visit at the build stage. So they would be reviewing that documentation. So it actually should address those concerns in the sense that it should be a very black and white process if you were to choose to do it. Yes?
Yeah, I'm Greg from Massey University. Just a couple of suggestions. If we're trying to work closer with the government and looking at how we reduce our mortgages with banks, why isn't the building levy used for the cost of a third party to encourage better buildings? Because isn't that why the levy is paid, to encourage? I mean, it's all good to the brands and have to put about giving it as a rebate or some sort of incentivisation. So that's just my 2 little cents.
I like it. Who thinks that's a good idea? Okay, yeah. Well, you know, if I'd welcome putting something together where we put our names together and say that to brands. I mean, we do feel that we are, I mean, you tell me, but it feels like with 10,000 homes lined up to go through Homestar, that we're helping to move the sector towards better performing windows, walls, ceilings, and we are changing the housing stock. So if there could be some support like that, I think that would be beneficial, and it would be a move away from those research papers to actual practical achievement. But yeah, I think that's really valid point. Thanks. Okay, we'll make this the last question. If you could just say who you are again.
Sorry, Adam Mercer, I'm an architect. It seems to me that the commercial sector has adopted Homestar because their end clientele demands it.
Yeah.
Big developers, big office buildings are saying we can attract staff because they want to work in healthy buildings. In contrast that to the residential sector, if real estate agents can put 2 ads in the paper for identical houses, this is Homestar, you'll get 600,000 for it. This isn't Homestar, it's exactly the same, you're only going to get 550 for it. Everybody will adopt Homestar. Have you got any stats to support that?
So we have got, I've just had 5 different research projects through, 4 different research projects through evidencing that better performing homes in other countries with energy performance certificates, so they're in different countries, some states of America, some Canada, and some other 2 other countries did provide a higher price premium And it's important to note, although we are seeing homes come through now with ratings, so I was going to talk about it tonight, but just in the last month we've seen 6 national articles about Homestar in press, and there was some media this morning. And people are talking about it now. So Fletcher Living publicised that they are doing Homestar, and other people. What you need is a little bit of volume. So we're just starting to get that. I think I'd be surprised if we didn't see that soon. And further, we've got some major players who'll be speaking next, who are delivering 3,000 Homestar builds. So you'll start seeing this kind of. We haven't quite got the push and the funds to do a national marketing campaign, but people delivering are starting to do that, so that's positive. Just a little note that there's a really useful infographic we've created. It should be up tomorrow. Ritva has them. Is Ritva here? Okay, so if you're leaving now and not staying for the really awesome session with Marie and Rachel coming up next, grab one, because it just lists those things that we've done to make certification significantly simpler to get done. Because I really feel we talked a lot about a few other things, but just to note them, so volume can be done at speed now with pre-certification by us. You don't have to do modelling, so that's pretty significant cost saving. Slab insulation isn't required, but is still beneficial in Auckland, Cowmanville and Northland. Because of the work the team have done in putting such importance on energy now, you should be able to, if you build a good wall, a good floor, a good ceiling, decent windows, decent ventilation, decent heating system, to get to 6 Homestar without lots of other fiddly bits. It's quite significant, that. Okay, so if you build decent, shouldn't be any worm farms. Do the wind farms if you want, it's fine. There's less evidence required and they're more practical, and there's a 1-page checklist, right? So those things are all about, those are all process. So just to note that. I think, what time are we at?
We're done.
We are done. Okay, so just a final thanks to Sam and Leanne and everyone else who's contributed. Afternoon tea and then a really great session about how councils can do more. Was that useful? Yeah. Great. Thanks so much.